Welcome to Life's Checkmark. Now is the time more than ever to check in. Don't let someone else check off your life. Most things we were led to believe growing up are not always in our best interest. This I have learned when my wealth is involved with banks and government programs. I am sharing how you can use infinite banking to maximize cash flow for real estate, businesses, and for your family. If you would like to learn more how you can have guaranteed returns in any economy outside of Wall Street, check out the link in the notes. Hi, welcome. Today we have with us Kim Kesterke. Kim, thank you for joining us. Kim is a full-time mother, a W-2 employee, and a real estate investor. She's got so much to give, and I like to share this over and give it over to Kim. Kim, can you please share more about yourself with everyone and what led you to the journey of getting involved in real estate?
Yeah, thank you so much, John, for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here. And really, my story is very similar to, I think, a lot of people out there. So in 2006, I purchased my first home. And anybody that was around in the house purchasing era in 2006 just can remember it just was very high energy, frenzy. Everybody was getting a loan. It was very, very easy to obtain financing. And so I bought a house. It was in Augusta, Georgia. And 2 years later, 2008 happened. The economy tanked. I found myself $30,000 underwater in the home. And then I also was relocating to Atlanta, which is about 3.5 hours away from Augusta, for a job. And really, I was 26 years old at the time, and I did not have $30,000 to take to a closing table. And honestly, today, I wouldn't want to take a $30,000 loss on anything. So I just decided at that point to just look at what my options were. And I joke, and because I say that's how I became an accidental landlord. But honestly, it just was an experience that over time, over the years, has been extremely rewarding. You know, that same house, I own it today. I never had an issue with getting new tenants. It taught me a lot, and it really gave me the confidence to start acquiring slowly. I would get a couple properties here and there. And then when 2015 hit, I really started getting serious about utilizing real estate investing as my path for retirement.
Okay, that's great. And so could you go a little bit deeper with how you kept on growing then through the years? And what probably kept you going? You know what I mean? Your motivation and stuff.
Well, what kept me going, the motivation was looking at my 401k doing nothing. and
Yeah.
I get it. This day and age in 2021, 401ks are performing way better than they were back in, 2010, 11, and 12, when I really started to question, is this really going to get me to where I want to go? So that was really the big motivation. But to answer your question on the acquisition phase, for a good part of between that 2008 to, I would say, 2012, it was a lot easier to find deals on the MLS. But you'd think I would have this massive portfolio because I was investing left and right between the best window of opportunity. And I wasn't. I was actually a little bit scared to dive in and invest my money. So, I would get maybe one deal here and another one there. And then, like I said, in 2015, there were still, opportunities to find things on the MLS. And I still believe today there's opportunities. I went in and I started looking at duplexes and just, duplexes and triplexes, and really started making that my strategy. And I found that in Augusta, Georgia, that's where I invest. The competition wasn't as fierce, and I still believe it's not as fierce even today in 2021, where I was still able to get some good deals and get some great tenants and really realize the returns that I was looking for.
Okay, so are you still looking on the MLS today, or?
Well, not today, but only because I've gone through a lot of education and have educated myself. I've attended a lot of real estate investing classes, and I feel more confident going out and actually talking to sellers direct. For people who are brand new and that have W-2 jobs and don't have a whole lot of time, the MLS is still a good place to start. It might even be you go on the MLS and network with an investor-friendly real estate agent who has the ear to the ground on the off market. properties. So I wouldn't write off the MLS, but I also wouldn't say use that as your primary strategy. I think networking is key, finding networking as a W-2 with an investor-friendly real estate agent, or networking with wholesalers, or networking with the people that are out there looking for off-market properties that they can bring to you. Just keeping in mind, you've got a full-time job, you've got family and all these other responsibilities, to really try to leverage relationships and networking.
Right. So you're trying to build a team still, right? And, so most people would probably consider a contractor, appraiser, and all that, realtor and all that stuff would be part of your team.
Yep.
Yeah. And I remember hearing too, the MLS is where there's people, everybody wants to sell something, right? But it's not always going to be a good deal. But correct. I agree. It's always somewhere to look, especially for, like you said, the W-2 employees. And I have to applaud what you've been doing, sharing with everybody that are W-2 employees to, how to leverage themselves and others and get out there and look for opportunities. Just because where I was a W-2, and that's where I started, investing, and I lost track, basically, coming home and, I guess dealing with family, and that's life, and, things move on. So you, given all the experience you have, knowledge, and helping people out, especially in your Facebook group, which we'll dive in a little bit further, I applaud you for doing that. So, what are some ways that somebody could look into getting started if they didn't start? I know there's a few options people might have if they might already have one or two, but if you were just getting started, what would you say to somebody that's looking to learn?
So I would say the first and the most important thing is learn how to analyze a deal. There's tons of YouTube videos. There's tons of people that have their, opinions about it. You can find them on Facebook groups. You can, again, YouTube, you can Google it, go to Bigger Pockets. And I would say learn how to do that first, because then it doesn't matter where you're finding it. You're going to be able to know, is that a good deal or not? Whether it's on the MLS, whether it's a pre-foreclosure, whether it's an off-market property that a wholesaler brings to you, you'll be able to know. So that's first and foremost. And then second, when it comes to getting started, once you feel more confident about running the numbers and what parameters work for you, then there's a lot of different ways that you can get started really at any budget. So, a lot of people look at real estate investing and think, oh my gosh, I need all this money. I'm going to have to know all these different contractors. I'm going to have to know how to build things. I'm going to have to know how to fix things. And I mean, I'm living proof that you don't need to know all those things right off the bat to get started. What you do need to be able to know is how to analyze the property, and then the networking piece. To build on a little bit further, if somebody's thinking, well, gosh, how do I get started with low credit and without a lot of money? So there's a lot of different ways that you can do creative financing. Even this day and age where the market is extremely hot all over the country, there's still people that might, have problems keeping their homes, but they don't want to go into foreclosure. And it's really just being able to have those conversations and knowing what to ask when you talk to people who are looking to sell, because you might be able to just acquire that property with a very small down payment and they hold the loan, and you just make those payments, and then you're able to make a bit of spread between either if you want to flip that property or if you want to rent that property out. And you don't have to show any of your credit to the bank, and you don't have to show really, you don't have to have a lot of money for the down payment. You just have to be very good at negotiating and helping that seller achieve what their goal is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to get involved. Would you recommend somebody like aiming towards like one area, like seller financing, or there's lease options and a whole bunch of other strategies out there? Would you suggest just focusing on one so they can understand it and become like a master at that?
I do, because it's very easy in real estate investing to, jump down a rabbit hole and just, or the shiny object syndrome. I mean, There's so many different strategies. So the way that I help people narrow it down is you've got to, because everybody's different, you got to figure out, okay, do you have no money and no credit? Do you have some money and decent credit? Or do you have maybe some money and excellent credit? So you've got to look at where you are specifically financially. And the good news is you can do anything. So if you have zero money and zero credit, then I would highly recommend looking into being a bird dog, which a bird dog is a term for finding deals. So again, what I said earlier, in our talk today is that if you know how to analyze a deal, then you can find a deal because you're able to run the numbers and take that to an investor, and investors will scoop that up all day long if it's a good deal and it hits their parameters. And you don't have to have any money to do that. You just have to be driving around a neighborhood, see a rundown place, hunt down the owner, and talk to that owner. And so, that's one way. But if, say, you have good credit and some money, then yeah, you'd be able to go do a conventional loan, and you got to put 20% down. If some people are thinking, well, gosh, I don't want to put 20% down, then you go into that happy medium of lease options, seller financing, subject to, and all of those strategies are things that you can look up on YouTube or go into any Facebook group of real estate investors and ask what is subject to, and you'll get 150 comments and responses. So it's really easy to find the information these days.
Yeah, there's a lot of great information out there now. I can only imagine what it was like back then to try and learn all this stuff and get to meet people that actually do it all the time, face to face. But no, that's great. I appreciate sharing that with us. So, I mean, you recommend like bigger pockets, or would you say, definitely check out your group, because I see that growing and a lot of comments, a lot of feedback, and you have a summit and stuff going on. Or is that what it's called?
Yeah. So, yep, I would say so. Bigger Pockets is where I started. So I think they do an excellent job with forums and asking questions. But the reason why I started the W2 Real Estate Investors Group is because, there's a lot of people that have full-time jobs that want to invest in real estate. And there really wasn't, I felt, a place that really catered to that experienced the same things that we experience every day. We have full-time jobs. We've got families, we've got responsibilities. Oh, by the way, we've got maybe a 401k that's not performing, and we're thinking, crap, how am I ever going to retire by the age of 65? So those are all things that, the W2 Real Estate Investors Group really focuses on. But in terms of, networking, you look to your local real estate association. Those are other areas, if you wanted to go local, that you could even network. So on the symposium and the summit that a friend of mine, Jennifer Ward, she's the founder of the Long Distance Real Estate Investors Facebook group. So her and we actually met on the Choose FI, which is Choose Financial Independence, their Facebook group. And we got along, we hit it off, and we felt that our groups both related to each other. And so what we decided to do is we went and we found 10 experts in all different types of functionality. So we've got, people who flip, people who do lease options, people who buy and hold, people who private lend, they take their 401ks and lend it. So we found a little bit of each strategy and found experts in it, brought them all together. We interviewed them. They all are doing classes. So these are not just back and forth interviews. They're actually, these people came prepared with slideshow and specific strategies and tools and just wealth of information. And we pulled it all together, and it's now something that people can either purchase the recordings or they can attend live, which is March 6th through 7th.
Okay. Yeah, and that's cool. I did see the picture of it. I think it was 12 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you could check that out, and then you have seller finance. I mean, the list goes on, lease options and et cetera. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I like to see. And you don't have to go searching through Bigger Pockets or whatever. You already went out and talked to them, and you brought them all together in one spot.
Yeah,
and even that, even the small fee that's there, that's nothing compared to all the knowledge you're going to get.
I mean,
and then you can.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you sign up for a local boot camp. I mean, I think my first boot camp that I signed up for, it was a weekend class, and
Hmm.
my gosh, it was like it was $500 if you brought a friend. So it was really 1,000. Then you had to just split it with a friend, and it was five
Yeah,
hundred
right.
bucks. And we're covering, more in this symposium, and like we literally priced it at, if you want the recordings, $49. And if you want to attend live, it's $20. I mean, it's so inexpensive, but just Jennifer and I, we bet on a Choose FI, financial independence. And so we wanted to make it where it was information that was accessible and that was affordable, but just had a lot of really good content.
Yeah. No, that's great. And so let's dive in a little bit more. For you moved, and then you have properties that are a little bit further away. Is that right? And so you're managing them from a distance. Can you share a little bit how you're doing something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, 3.5 hours away, it definitely isn't close enough to actually to get into the car and respond to every minor thing. So it was very clear to me that I needed to build a team. And what that team consists of is, I wanted to make sure that I had a good handful of plumbers, a good handful of electricians, carpenters, lawn care. I mean, just think of all the trades that think of your home and think of the
Mhm.
different people that you have to call. That's the same thing. And when you're building a team, and then the question is, okay, well, how do I find these people? And there's some really great websites out there. I've had a lot of luck with a website called thumbtack.com, where you can
Yeah.
actually go in, type in your zip code, put the project out, and get some people. And I'm not going to lie, it's going to take, kissing a lot of frogs to find your good ones. But then when you find your good ones, you're going to want to put them on your list. And I would caution anybody that is building a team, don't try to use that one person for everything. And don't just use, let's say you find a really good electrician, don't just use them again for all of your electrical work, because you want to be able to have a few good people that you can rotate and call. Because if your electrician is a good electrician, he's going to be hard to get, and you might need a faster response time. He might be able to do it, but maybe you call him one day and he's 2 weeks out. You're going to have somebody on the bench basically to fill that in. So just keep in mind as you're building your team. The second thing I'd like to say about team building is consider basically investor friendly real estate agents as someone on your team. Maybe a hard money lender would be somebody on your team. Even look at software programs that are going to make your life easier, such as cozy.co or Zillow Rental Manager. Add that as a team member, because technology, if you can leverage that, you can become a lot more efficient. And I think a lot of people don't really look at software and maybe that small investment as a value add, but it's saving you a ton of time, and you want to budget a little bit to have the right software in place.
All right. And so do you find yourself driving out there at all anymore? Or, I mean, maybe to go look at the properties every once in a while? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's been probably, I would say, 5 months since I've
Okay.
been there last. I used to go maybe once every other month, and I was a lot more hands-on. But what I ended up doing, I ended up hiring a property manager because my portfolio got to a certain point. But
Hmm.
that wasn't until I think November of this year. So I had been self-managing from a distance for 15 years with a full-time job, and it is doable. It's just keep in mind that at a certain point, you are going to get to a certain point. You have to hire help, or else you're not going to be able to grow. And I think what the big light bulb for me was, the person that I ended up hiring, she's an investor as well. She's an investor agent. She's been in Augusta her whole entire life. And she had the right connections. Even though I had a good team, she was able to, she has even more connections and able to negotiate deals, even better deals, because she represents a lot of different properties. So she's automatically walking into a volume discount that can be applied to my property that I didn't necessarily have the leverage for. So keep in mind when you are building your real estate portfolio, sure, you want to self-manage for a while so you understand it, but at a certain point, you're going to want to add a property manager to your team.
Right. And so you should always calculate that in before you buy property, correct? But
Yes.
yes. Yes.
Mhm.
That was a learning curve for me before, I kind of just like, oh, here's a property, look at this. And I had no idea,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's,
now we can pay. Well, we were able to pay ourselves, which was helpful, but you'd still want to add that in.
yes. Yes. Yeah. And they are a great asset to your team. That they really are, especially like you said, if they really know what they're doing from the area, the agent and all that stuff. Yeah. I have one myself. That's why I can share it. I was going to actually come out and ask you that if you had one and why you didn't, but you already jumped into that.
Yeah.
So, so, so you have all this, and then you have a W-2 still. And so, what's the reason why you still focus? You're still working and being a full-time employee.
Yeah. So, it's a great question, and I love what I do. And that's what I love about real estate is because, it wasn't always that way when I worked a full-time job. I just finally am with a company that I believe in. It's exciting. They're a startup and just doing really cool things. So I really like being involved in that. But what real estate does allow you to have is the freedom to choose. And, sometimes we go through life and don't have the freedom to choose. And that's what the frustrating thing is. And with real estate investing, it just gives you the opportunity to choose and just say, hey, I like what I'm doing. I'm going to keep doing it. Or, hey, sayonara, I'm going to go live on the beach. I mean, both are just super rewarding. But again, it's that whole concept of just being able to make the choice for our life. That's the ultimate freedom, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, you want to be able to do what you want, when you want, what you want, wherever you want. However it goes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that is good. So I know you're very busy. You have a full-time job. You have all these properties, and you have a child. So how do you go about trying to get everything done every day? So what I'm getting at is I'm a believer in goals, and I'm just trying to dig into you and see what you do every day to get your number one task done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, it all starts with prioritizing. And so, when it comes to, for instance, my daughter, she's 7 and she loves to cheer. And so I prioritize my time to know that I have to pick her up at this time at school, and I've got to get her to cheer practice at this time, these days a week. That's really important to me. I want to be a part of that. I don't want to outsource that out. Mm-hmm. So, it's scheduling things around that. And then on the things that you don't prioritize so much, there's nothing wrong with asking for help or having, for instance, cleaning, maybe having your house cleaned once a month. It's worth it if that's something that maybe you don't prioritize. Or I'm just using that as an example. For another person, it might be grocery delivery. Maybe they just don't prioritize going out to the grocery store. So it's almost figuring out where you can optimize the most and like setting your what you prioritize, as like your basis, and then schedule around it, and then outsource out what isn't necessarily your priority.
That's great. Yep. Totally agree with you again.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're right on track.
Thank you.
So no, you're doing great. I love this. Yeah. I'm the same way. So I figure out what my priorities are, and that's what my focus is. And like you said, I mean, I haven't gone as far as having somebody else clean yet or anything, but that is something that could be a lower cost than what you could be making going out looking for a deal or something, just if we're talking about that.
Yeah. And, let's take the property manager example. For the longest time, 15 years, I just was stubborn. I just thought, nope, what I can do, no other property manager can do as good as what I can do. It's ridiculous. It's silly. But how many times did I have to get a text message that may have diverted my focus from what I was doing during the business day? Yeah, sure. It may have only took 5 minutes for me to shoot a text over to the right contractor and have them give the tenant a call. But those are all micro interruptions that all add up. And so by paying a little bit of money each month to have somebody else do it, it has opened up so much time that I didn't realize was getting sucked into. So, for people who are listening to that, I mean, it may not be a property manager example in their life, but it could be something else. Like, what are those little micro nuisances that are coming at you every day, and how can you divert those?
Right. And that was a big game changer for me too, the property manager. I work sometimes I'll work 10, 12 hours a day, and then I come home, want to be with the family, and you get that phone call, and it's not just a 1 hour thing. You might have to drive the long distance, and, it could be a quicker, longer fix or whatever it is. Right. So that's why you go back and you want to make sure you do your numbers and you put that in there just in case. You want to plan that you are going to pay somebody sometime down the road if you're not already, and and then they take great care. I see you get more time, just like you said, less stress. But yeah, I agree with that too. It was a big game changer for me. It took me a while. I want to bring up, I ran into a guy, he was a realtor. And he said, do you want to be a professional landlord or a real estate investor? And that's when it clicked in that, I don't want to be like, it's really good to get hands on and learn it for a year or two, so you know what to do. But then you got to start thinking, do you want to be a professional landlord or real estate investor? And that's where the property manager, I would think, comes in. That's just my 2 cents. Anyways, I have here some information about you with your website, your Facebook group. So I'm going to pop up the Facebook group here. If you just want to share anything you want about what your group is all about and what people can find there.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. I mean, it's an awesome community of people with full-time jobs who invest in real estate. And there's even people in there that have retired from their W-2 job early. I mean, they're in their 30s or their 40s, and they're still in our group because, they love helping out, and they love still, being a part of that. And every week we have Facebook Lives from, just different experts. I mean, we had a contractor come on one week and talk about how you properly vet a contractor, what questions to ask, how you can sift them, since there's so many of them, how you kind of choose the right one, and the qualifying questions. So it's things like that, just very tactical and strategy focused Facebook Lives. And then, of course, people post questions and the group will respond. And we've got a lot of engagement. So it's actually a really fun community. People engage, and I would love to invite anybody who's either thinking about real estate investing, or maybe they have a rental property and they have a full-time job and they're interested in joining, to come on over.
Great. Yeah. And I totally recommend that too. It's been growing pretty quick. And so I have another website. I got a website here, the w2landlord.com. So what can you find out there?
Yeah, so that's just really just kind of where I parked all my information. So, there's blog posts on there. There's, a video blog on there. There's, just different pieces of information, resources that I provide. So, if you go into the resources section, you'll see the Facebook group. You'll have information about the symposium. I also created an ebook, which is a 30-day back to basics real estate challenge and real estate investing challenge. And really what it is it's 30 different tasks and foundational strategies that you can do from day 1 to day 30 that will improve your networking, that will help you analyze a deal, that will teach you and walk you through the different strategies of where you're at in terms of your budget and your credit, and which strategy would match up best to where you are. And, even goes into making offers. So really the whole point was to take you from day 1 to day 30 through the whole entire gamut of things that you encounter as a new real estate investor.
Well, that sounds cool. I'll have to look that up too and just check it out.
Sure.
Kim, yeah, I want to say thank you for coming on and sharing with us your experience and your journey and everything you got going on, especially in that Facebook group. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, John. This has been really fun, and I've really enjoyed my time with you today.
Thank you. It was nice seeing you.